Folks, we're back. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jonas with another episode of Veterans in Politics. Today we have Cynthia Diane Steele, former Clark County Family Court judge and candidate for Clark County District Court, candidate for U.S. Congress District number 1. No rants today. Judge Steele, how you doing?
I'm doing well so far. It's early.
Tell us a little bit about you.
Oh, well, I have been a judge here in the county, like you mentioned, for 22 years. I retired in 2019. And then I did senior judge work, which was mediating the various things, which I really love doing, the mediation part of it. I had to resign that in order to run for Congress because you can't be partisan and nonpartisan at the same time. So
you're no longer a retired judge?
I'm still retired.
Oh, you're still retired?
I'm still retired. I just had to resign from
the retired status?
Yes. No. Let me explain. When you retire, they hire you on as a senior judge where you go in periodically when you have time and they need you or whatever, and you mediate things for the community so they don't have to go to trial. Right. And they can get their own things taken care of, which is really the best way to go. I didn't lose any of those, so I was really happy that I was able to get people to talk to each other and figure out what would be best for them. And
so you were mediating, basically.
I was mediating, basically, at that point in time. I had a couple of times where I had to sit for a judge who was sick, but outside of that, I pretty much just mediation. So they give you a commission to do it, and I had to resign the commission.
How much is the retired judge? How much do they make a day?
I really don't know.
How much did you make a day?
I don't know. I don't know how to figure it out.
You don't have a CPA? Get her Ron Q.
Can you get me a CPA? I really don't know. I know that they base it on whatever your salary is, and it's some sort of formula that they do. You don't look at your direct deposit? I see how much I get, but sometimes it's just a couple of hours. Sometimes it's all week. So I don't know how much I made by the hour. I really don't. Okay. I never parsed it down.
Okay. So Veterans in Politics. Thank you for coming on the program, by the way.
I know. I appreciate being here.
And we have an endorsement interview with you, Monday?
Monday, yeah. Me and 7 others.
Yeah, that should be a doozy.
We'll see.
I don't sit on the panel, just to let you know. So I won't be there. So this is going to be my only chance to ask you questions publicly.
Okay.
And so, by the way, I do sit on the panel, so Steve will ask most questions today, and then I'll ask questions on Monday.
Okay.
So, Judge Steele, you've been on the Clark County Family Court bench for 22 years.
Yes.
And I remember when you first got on the bench.
Yes, you do.
That's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Yes, it has.
And you know that we've been going after, well, I didn't say after, that's probably a broad word. We've been exposing a lot of bad behavior on the bench from judges.
I've seen that you do that, yes.
Yes. And I want to ask you a few things. And I just want to know how you feel about, and I know you're running for Congress, okay? But sometimes it's policy and character. That's what people look at when they vote for people. Or sometimes they do both. Sometimes they just do one or the other. But we do all. We do policy and character. And I just want to know your feelings on a couple of things, on a few things actually. When it comes to contempt of court in family court, and bench sentence. One of the sentencing is jail time. Is a family court judge a civil judge, or is a family court judge a criminal judge, or is a family court judge both civil and criminal?
A family court judge is a civil judge.
Okay. Now, since a family court judge is a civil judge, do a family court judge have the jurisdiction to lock up a litigant?
Yes.
Family court judge does?
Yes.
Okay. So if a family court judge has the power to lock up a litigant, and the litigant shows up before the court without an attorney, and a litigant can't afford an attorney, why doesn't the family court judge appoint a public defender to the litigant?
We don't appoint a public defender. My understanding, the way I did it in my court, was if I was going to hold somebody in contempt with the possibility of jail time, especially jail time, I would ask them, do you have an attorney? Can you get an attorney? If you cannot, then I would call the special public defender's office.
So you do that. You do that.
Yes, but that has been a process. It wasn't always that way. Contempt of court is a really hard thing, and I've tried to look at the statutes and try to make them uniform, because they have contempt of court for all varieties of different licensures and one thing and another, for criminals, for in court, for out of court. I mean, there's all kinds of things. It is just not an easy way to talk about it. So if I found that what normally happens is somebody files a motion for contempt of court. And so I have the motion for contempt of court in front of me before I decide if I'm going to do it or not. And if I decide that it does merit a hearing, then I do a hearing for that contempt of court. Okay. If the person cannot afford an attorney and they ask me for an attorney or they whatever, I generally would ask them. But see, sometimes the newer judges don't know all the dynamics.
So you do that. Yeah. A lot of judges don't.
Some judges don't. And it's because they don't know the process. Isn't that a
violation of their constitutional right?
I think it's because they don't know the process.
But isn't that a violation of that litigant's constitutional right? Whether the judge knows the process or not, they still violated the litigant's constitutional right, correct?
I hate to say that it was a violation of their constitutional rights if the judge also didn't know. If it comes to the judge's attention, the judge needs to prepare that. But for a long time, we didn't have the access to the public defender's office for that. That was a recent development, I think in the last 5 or 6 years, maybe, where it became a process.
So with that says, you're familiar with the 7th Amendment, the right to a jury.
Yes.
So why doesn't the litigant have the right in family court, and they're facing jail time, have a right to a jury?
Good question.
Why is that? And why isn't there any jury boxes in family court to begin with?
There's one jury box.
And how many family court 9. Judges we have? 26?
Yes. We've never had a jury trial. You can have a jury trial in family court if you have a tort issue.
Explain tort.
Tort means husband and wife are getting a divorce, and the husband, sometimes the wife, beats the other spouse up and causes harm. And that is what brought on the divorce. So it was like, this is a whole package. The divorce, the tort, all that. But they have got to claim it's a tort. They got to put it in their complaint. Then they got to ask for a jury trial, or the defendant has to ask for a jury trial. We've had 3 or 4 people ask for a jury trial.
In your 22 years?
I've never had one.
So in 22 years, 3 or 4 people asked for a jury trial?
no.
Oh, you've never had one?
Not just me.
Oh, you've never had one?
Of all the judges. There's only been 2 or 3 who asked for a tort, and you would only get a jury for the tort portion. You wouldn't get a jury.
So they don't know anything about it then?
Who?
The litigants. Basically, about the jury.
But everybody is deemed to know all the laws, right?
let me. So
I'm just being catty.
Right. I understand. So a lot of litigants.
There's a lot of stuff I don't like about it, and one of the things is if you're a multi-million-dollar corporation, you're getting a divorce, and that corporation is involved in the divorce. If you weren't married, you'd be in civil court downtown on a business dispute, and you would get a jury trial. Right. But so the family court judges don't get that layer of protection on their decision making. They don't have a second set of eyes, or 12 extra eyes, or 6, as the case may be, sets of eyes.
Is there something wrong with that picture?
Texas does have jury trials. A lot of places do have jury trials for family court. I think that there would be some merit in looking at that.
Especially when you're dealing with jail, and especially when you're dealing with relocation of children. And especially when you're dealing with termination of parental rights, do you think that one person should make that decision that's going to affect this family for generations to come? It's
a tough thing to do. I've had to do it for 22 years. I've done all the different areas. what I'm trying to say here is the people of the state of Nevada need to talk to their legislators if they want to change that system. Until then, we're stuck with what we have in the legislature. And they have found cause not to have jury trials in family court.
But your Constitution Amendment 7 affords you the right to have a jury trial.
In a criminal hearing. In a criminal hearing, you have
Speaking
the right.
of criminal hearing, you mentioned domestic violence. Does domestic violence belong in family court since family court is civil and domestic violence is a criminal act? Shouldn't that be forwarded over to the justice of the peace?
Steve, I believe in the same way that you do as far as that's concerned. To me,
but people need to know this stuff.
Just let me explain. To me, because you don't know each other, you're going to go to justice court. But because you do know each other, somehow that crime isn't as terrible. And so you get a civil judge instead of a criminal judge. I mean, I don't understand the difference in that dynamic. I really believe it should be looked at. But the reason that they don't do it is because the person who has been victimized, allegedly, would go to court, but then maybe has reconciled with their batterer or whatever. And now the DA has nothing to do because they won't testify against them. And so they say in a civil matter, it's better to do your issues in front of a civil judge so that you can hopefully move on with your life without the interference of trials. And because that's really a big thing. I have found that people who can resolve their differences without going to trial have a better life afterwards with their spouse or their mate or their parent of their other child or whatever, or their children, because they made that decision on their own. But once you say something publicly about the other person in civil court, criminal court, whatever, you can never, and you know what I'm talking about. Somebody pokes you in the eye, you feel like you've got to do something about it. And if somebody sees them poke you in the eye, now you really have to do something about it. And so people
Somebody pokes me in the eye, Judge, I'm going to break their finger.
Well, la 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 la.
There's a live camera right there.
Yes, I know. I'm pretending.
I'm just straight up like that.
That's fine. I really think that there's a lot of things that we just have not, with a temporary legislature the way we have it, to look at everything we need to in 90 days and to really fix systems. I like to fix systems. I worked in the juvenile division and I fixed that statutory system they had. I worked in the dependency courts. I fixed the aspect of what the judge's responsibilities are in that arena. I couldn't fix, what social workers do or what the other people that are involved in that arena do. But I made sure the judges had more hearings, more time during their hearings that were closer in instead of letting them just hang on a case. I took over a case one time. It was 5 years down the line on a dependency case, and they hadn't even decided what to do about the children. They were still in foster care.
And sorry, Judge, I'm bringing this up to you because family court is a national problem. It's not just here in Clark County. We've interviewed people from Jersey, from Philly, from California. This is a national epidemic.
But
it's not a problem just in Clark County.
Here in Nevada, though,
that's why
that'd be a first step, and then we could be like a model for other people to feed from.
Right.
But until we do that, we're kind of stuck with a national issue, and I think things can be done.
So you got a stigma right now because
I do.
It says family court judge it's going to be on your resume, and there's a lot of litigants out there that when they see something like that, they're like turn away from it. So I'm throwing all these questions so you can answer them because there's a lot of people want to know. Let's talk about what's that one? It just escaped me. Drugs.
Okay.
Does a family court judge who's a civil judge, not a criminal judge, does a family court judge have a right to order a litigant to take a drug test? Now, before you answer, I have spoken to many justices across the country, not just here in Nevada, and they told me that a civil judge does not have an authority to tell a litigant, to order a litigant to take a drug test.
Okay, see, when I took the bench in 1997, I did order drug tests because that's what everybody was doing. Mm-hmm. And then I took the juvenile bench.
You just followed the lead.
Well,
did you read the law?
There were forms for it. It had been going on for a while.
So it's normalized. So the bad behavior is normalized.
Wait. So anyway, I was doing it and I didn't like it because my marshal had to be involved with stamping the hand. My secretary had to be involved with receiving the report. She had to make those determinations as to who to release it to, that kind of stuff. It's uncomfortable. So I took the juvenile bench in 2000 until 2003. So for 3 years I was there. And when I came back from there, you will not find a drug test ordered by me in my courtroom ever.
Why is that?
Because civil judges don't have that jurisdiction. I've talked to Supreme Court justices about it. They don't have the jurisdiction.
And why are they doing it?
Because
why are they allowed to do it?
Nobody's taking them up on appeal.
You know why they're allowed to? Well, that's true.
That's true.
But this is how they do it. If you don't take me being the judge.
Put that down.
If you don't take the drug test, I deem your urine dirty. Therefore, kids go with dad or mom or whoever.
Oh, I'm worse than that. Here's what I do. I say, Judge, they need a drug test. I say, fine, do your discovery. There's rule, I think it's 25 and 35. You follow that discovery rule and you can get all the drug tests you want. And then you could bring them to court because then you will send the person, you will receive the information. I will not be the keeper of the information and know it before anybody else does. I'm the judge. I should hear things after everybody knows what's going on. So I tell them, if you want a drug test, follow it that way. When they would say to me, but Your Honor, all the other judges do it this way. And I said, you know what?
All the other judges break the law.
No, I'm not going to go that far.
I'll go that far.
You can do whatever you want to. But I can't go that far because truly sometimes people feel like they need to send somebody for a drug test just to make sure.
Then they need to amend the law then.
Hold on. to make sure the children are safe.
They need to amend the law.
But this is what I do.
They can't legislate from the bench.
Please stop.
Sure.
Here's what I do. I tell them, I have enough information here to believe that, yes, you are doing drugs. Mm-hmm. And so this is a civil court, not a criminal court. So I don't have to believe that you're innocent until you prove you're guilty or until somebody proves you're guilty. Mm-hmm. I can assume that you're probably doing drugs. I have enough information to rely on that. And so I am going to make sure you have a visitation that is more secure. Right. I don't have to have the drug test. Mm-hmm. I have to have pleadings that I'm comfortable with that show that you're probably doing drugs and your kids will be unsafe with you. Bring your information to me then that says you're wrong, Judge, and I will change that determination. If somebody's just throwing it out there, but people throw those things out there at each other all the time. And it's not
all the time, like DV.
It's not safe for the children when the parents are not being accurate with their allegations against each other. These kids have got to grow up. These kids have got to have a life. They're not having a life if their parents are embattled in this kind of thing, and the courts can't be involved in it. We're supposed to hear what's going on. We're supposed to do, like you say, follow the law. I don't believe that there's a civil judge is supposed to do you come to court on a civil action, and you're not on probation, you're not on parole, there's no DA.
But then some of them treat them like criminals.
Well, I don't.
Not all judges.
It could be a perception that they've been treated like a criminal. I'm not going to go there either.
Okay.
In my courtroom,
I respect that.
In my courtroom, I didn't give drug tests, and I challenged every attorney out there to come back and show me the statute where I have the jurisdiction to order a drug test, and I will order it. And from 2003 until 2019, no one brought me that proof.
Maybe they just...
And they stopped asking for drug tests in my courtroom, and they started
because they already know. They already know that I
just don't do that.
Yeah, everybody already know what the policy was and what you were going to do, right?
Sometimes they do that, though, and I know they do it nationwide. It's not just Clark County.
Right.
For the protection of children. And the judge doesn't want to get some sort of thing where they accuse somebody of being a drug... I just tell them, there's enough proof here for me to be uncomfortable letting you have your kids by yourself. So you're not going to have your kids by yourself. You have to have a supervisor.
And I do appreciate you coming on the show.
But that's what I do.
Judge Steele.
But I can't fault the other judges if they do it differently because they're doing it. I don't know a judge, and I've met a lot of them.
In 22 years.
That wakes up and says, who can I mess with today?
Yeah.
Whose life can I ruin? Yeah. No, because that reflects bad on me if I ruin somebody's life.
Yes.
No judge is out there trying to do that.
Right. Yep.
Truly.
Or you would hope they would not try to do that.
I don't know of anybody who I feel comfortable saying this person does that. I don't know a judge who really goes out there. Sometimes our hands are just tied.
Yeah.
If we don't get the information that we're allowed to have, because an incompetent attorney or a person who doesn't have a counsel and they don't know what to give me to make my decision, I can't just say, well, you probably did it right. I'm just going to go. I have to have the facts.
Right.
And that
so you follow the law.
I try to.
You follow the rule of evidence.
I try to.
A lot of judges don't follow the rule of evidence. Some of them don't even read the pleading and the motions before they even take the bench.
That is...
That's terrible.
That's their internal process for their research. I read every word before I took the bench. I didn't let them give me evidence before the trial. I would strike it out of my pleadings.
And you ran for Supreme Court once, right?
Twice. Thanks.
Okay.
and I did not succeed. But it's because we need somebody from family court up there. We need somebody who understands the dynamic of the things that judges have to face. We have no jury, as you mentioned. We have no resources to find out or do any kind of investigation to see if somebody's lying to us. We don't have probation officers or any kind of investigator at all to help us know if that's a true fact or not. So it is difficult. I would never, ever want to put anybody in any kind of danger ever. But if I get only this information and it's not presented the other way, I've got to go with what the proof is. And it's hard. Okay. It really is hard.
I want to move on. Let's talk a little bit about vexatious litigants.
Vexatious?
And vexatious litigants is a tool that the courts use so that litigants won't file any more motions, correct? Won't file any more pleadings, won't be able to defend themselves, actually. Isn't that a constitutional violation? If you stifle a litigant from defending themselves in the court of law, and isn't that a 14th Amendment violation for fair judiciary? How is that a fair judiciary when a judge hits you as a vexatious litigant and you can't even defend yourself in a court of law when it comes to even trying to get your kids?
I don't think I ever had vexatious litigants in my courtroom. I never found anybody to be vexatious or have to do something else or come to me before they could file anything. I don't think I ever did. But what happens in those cases is it does become a little bit of a turmoil between the judge and the litigant.
And could I add to that? Could I just add to that before you answer?
Sure.
Why aren't attorneys deemed vexatious? Because there's a lot of attorneys file thousands and thousands of paperwork and briefings, but only the litigants are considered vexatious, but never the attorney.
Well,
why? Because the attorney's getting paid and the litigant is doing it for the love of their kid?
That's not really true. Vexatious litigants file things sometimes that are not even appropriate to be filed because they don't know. They're not lawyers, one thing and another.
Yeah, I get that.
So they don't know. And what they are doing is eating up the money and resources of the other side. It doesn't matter if that person's rich or poor.
But the attorneys do the same thing too. They eat up the money of the other side as well.
But the attorneys have...
I know that in my own personal case.
But they have an understanding of what can be filed,
what's allowed to be filed. And if somebody's doing frivolous filings, I can sanction them for that. You know, if they file something and it doesn't have any basis in reality, and somebody brings that to me with a motion for frivolous filing, it's the same thing as a vexatious litigant. If you filed frivolously, then I can rule on it. But people rarely do that. They don't know that they can do that, maybe. I don't know. So there's some things in there that are just, you are deemed to know the law. Everybody. If I know all the law, then how come you have to put points and authorities in your briefings. If I know everything already as a human being under the law, nobody can know all the laws. You can't. So so if somebody's filing something and I feel like they knew they shouldn't have, then that's a person who has a frivolous filing problem, and I will do a Rule 11 sanction on them. Or I have even reported some attorneys, sorry guys, for doing that to the state bar to have an investigation done.
You filed against attorneys at the state bar.
I have.
How about judges? Do you file against them too? Because you have an oath of office too. If you see they do that, if they're doing something that's illegal,
if I see something or do something, I have forwarded information that's come to my attention, but I've never seen personally something that I would report.
Okay.
We're so busy up there. I have people that were right next to me in our chambers that I never see. You're just busy getting your stuff done and doing your research, hopefully, and you're not up there kibitzing and saying, guess what I did today? You really don't. We have one meeting a month where we talk about things, trying to see who's doing what and how we can make it better or easier, either on the litigants, on us, on the community. So they do try to do that.
What would you say if I told you that I have a videotape of a judge saying the Constitution does not apply in my courtroom?
Well, I guess
I haven't released yet. I'm just waiting for the right time.
Well, let me say
because
this.
Politics is a whole big circle.
But let me say this. Let me say this one thing.
Okay.
Really, and this is from my heart.
Sure.
We do take a lot of incoming as far as the judges are concerned. We do make mistakes. Maybe it's not on purpose, but not enough facts or whatever.
When they do make mistakes.
Right. But here's the danger we're going on by saying every judge is this way.
Oh, I never said every.
Or casting that aspersion so that if you're wounded, you feel like your judge is one of those judges, It tears down the people's respect for the judiciary. And once they have no respect for the judiciary at all, for the judiciary, I don't mean an individual judge, I mean for the system. Once they have no more respect for the system, then you're going to really have chaos. When I first came on the bench in 97, it was chaos because people just did not like what was happening. It was a transition time. Nobody liked what was happening. And so we tried to build it back for a long time to get our confidence level in the community's confidence in us back. And then when these things happen, it's never good. Yes. And like you said, I have a stigma because I have to say family court judge. I'm proud of what I've done. I don't feel like I have a stigma, but like you said, sometimes perception is reality. And so that is tough on the judges who aren't engaging in illegal activity or not reading their files or doing something that they perceive to be okay because the whole nation's doing it. So why shouldn't they be able to? I just have encouraged people to, if they don't like the way the statute reads, go to the legislature and fix the statute.
Oh, we've been doing that. That brings me to this bill.
Okay.
In the last.
I have one more because then I really have to go.
Yeah. She's going to leave us, guys.
Sorry, I've double booked.
Well, no, I might hold the question until because you brought something up I really like.
In the last legislative session.
Okay.
Veterans in politics and one of the legislators put together a bill called Remove and Retain. And this is how it works, okay? The judges have judicial immunity. Judges don't have term limits. Judges are the only branch of government that is elected, but you cannot recall, okay? So how do you get rid of a bad judge?
Through the Judicial Ethics Commission.
Then you would think, but Judicial Ethics Commission, I got a whole slew of bad stuff on them. So how do you get rid of a bad judge? Okay. Me being an attorney, I don't want to run against you because I have a whole bunch of cases in front of you, Judge Steele. And I know you know that judge, this judge, that judge, that judge. And I have cases in front of that judge too. So I don't want to run against you because This is how I feed my family by winning my cases, right? This is how I turn the lights on in my house. This is how I pay the mortgage. So if I run against you, I might lose out all my cases, and that's not going to be good for me. I'm thinking as an attorney, this is what attorneys told me. So how do you get rid of a bad judge? If a judge wants to run again, they just vote, they're in for another 6 years, right? You don't get rid of them. Mm-hmm. So we came up with a bill called Remove and Retain. And the way it works is if remove gets more votes than retain, that judge, the seat's vacated, right? The Judicial Selection Committee.
Did that pass, that bill?
No, we're going to get it passed. It wasn't the last session.
I know there's a lot of struggle on how judges are elected and everything. And so,
well, and
so let me
to clarify though, it's if that judge is running unopposed though.
Yeah, the judge is running unopposed in the general election. Okay, remove or retain. Okay, it has to be an incumbent. Okay, so if remove gets more votes than retain, then the seat's vacated.
Okay.
Judicial Selection Committee takes in applicants, sends 3 names to the governor, and the governor picks one, and then the following election year they go for retention.
Okay.
Now, how do you feel about something like that to remove these bad judges? If a judge is good on the bench, like you say you are for 22 years, then you have nothing to worry about. You welcome it, yeah. But if a judge knows that they have a corrupt background, they're not going to want to go along with that particular bill.
I'll be in favor of anything the legislature can finally figure out to do.
How do you feel about that as to remove?
I have to do a little bit more research on it.
I
really do.
That.
You knew I was going to say that because I do. I do my research.
But I just explained there's nothing to research. It's to remove bad judges from the bench.
There kind of is. And I'd like to have a longer time to talk with you. I really can't do it today. But I would like to talk to you about that because there are circumstances where I want to run for judge. And so if I make this judge look really terrible, then I'll have an easier go at it. So I get all my friends to say terrible things. It's maybe not even true, but they like you better than they like the judge. So we've lost some good judges.
So you think the current process is working right now? Because there's a lot of bad judges that's still sitting on that bench.
I don't have that information, but we have a lot of bad judges on the bench.
Oh, I have that information.
Well, I'm not going to rule in on that. I'm not going to rule. I haven't read the briefs.
All right.
I try to be as fair as I can.
I know you do.
And you've known me for a long time. And I will tell you, the judges that I know are the same way. They want to do a good job. Nobody wants to have their name either in your little articles or on the front.
Why's my article little? Why's my article little?
I was like, oh, come on,
my article little?
Because everything's little up against you.
You got it going. You got him started again.
Anyway, I really have got to leave. I would like to come back another time, especially.
Oh, you'll be here on Monday. You'll get plenty of questions from me.
Well, not just Monday, but I'm talking about in the future because we could do something about the system if we work together, and we don't have to do it in a confrontational way. We can do it.
I was trying to hurry up because of time.
I know, and I misunderstood the length of time I was supposed to have today, and I apologize to you for that. Okay. And to your viewers, thank you for being here today. I am running for Congress, though.
We're gonna do that. We're gonna do.
They're gonna do that later.
Judge Steele, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Yeah.
You have balls, okay? Not you have guts.
Thank you.
not many judges have guts to come on the program and talk about the issues, especially in family court. So I want to thank you for that.
I come because I know you and I know I can talk straight up with you. Mm-hmm. And I don't just say yes because you said something.
Right.
Because that's not how
I know
it is. But I really do love my fellow judges. For the most part, every one of them is doing a great job. Some of them, maybe they don't do their research. Some of them, maybe they don't do some things. I couldn't point to one and say, that's the one.
I'll do all the pointing for you. Don't worry about it. I'll do the pointing for you.
I love the judges. They want to help the community. They really do. For those of you out there.
So Mark is going to zoom in on you.
Okay.
And you tell folks why they should take you out of the primary and put you in the general for congressional district number 1.
Okay.
And your point of contact.
Thank you. All right. So I have just a couple minutes here, and I would just like to say that I should win out of the 8 people in my race for the primary for the Republican Party. I am a voice that's of reason, and more importantly than that, I'm a voice. I don't want to be your dictator, and I don't want to be your rubber stamp. I want to be the voice of the people. I want to listen to what they need, what my district needs, what Nevada needs, and not bargain it away with some other state to do something else. That's our taxpayer money, and that's our responsibilities. I'd like to see the federal government out of our schools and out of our health care. I would like to see that happen so that we can be in charge of our own tax dollars and our children and our lives in Nevada. We can make that decision, and we can get rid of people that we don't want to do bad things easier if it's just the state of Nevada. But if we've got to wait to get the whole nation to agree that somebody's not doing something right before we can change what's going on, Nevada is just stuck. So I would really like to be the one that goes up there. I have mediation skills. I have the ability to read and write laws. And I would like to be the Republican that you send up there from this community. So thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Judge Steele.
All right.
Thank you, Jim. Folks, that's Judge Cynthia Diane Steele, former Clark County Family Court Judge and candidate for United States Congress, District Number 1. But before we go, folks, just want to let you know later on today, we're going to be opening up this little envelope, and it's going to say exactly who we endorse for governor. And we did a secret ballot. Was it last week or the week before?
Week before, yeah.
We did a secret ballot, so neither of us know who we actually endorse for governor, but we're going to open it up today. So Steve Sanson, Jim Jones for Veterans in Politics. Until next time.